Welcome to our Material Success through Yoga Principles book study. I'm just holding up the book in case. Oh, and Jennifer's here. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. If you don't have this book, it's Material Success through Yoga Principles by Swami Kriyananda. And tonight we're on lesson 13, Keep Your Feet on the Ground. So this is for Prashanti and Jennifer, for all of us, just a reminder, this is our informal group. So if any questions, comments, inspirations that come up, just feel free to unmute yourself, type things in the chat box, uh, by all means. So the more sharing we have, the merrier. But I'm going to start here. Keep your feet on the ground. In the last lesson, Swami quoted his guru saying, be practical in your idealism. And he goes on to tell this story about Yogananda giving him that advice and being balanced in his work. But there is one aspect here on page 206 that I'm going to read from, find this excerpt. People are increasingly aware that energy is the very basis of matter. Thus, the reality of energy demands consideration in the merchandising, would also indeed in almost anything that one does. A customer is more likely to buy, for example, if his energy is stimulated. Lively music is often played in stores and malls because of this realization. In time, I hope this dawning awareness will someday be lifted to higher levels, for I cannot but suspect that many customers find the present day blaring, restless music more of an irritant than a stimulus. Such restless music is, I believe, more likely to bounce people out the door. At last, that is how many people I know react to it. To stimulate people's energy without jarring on their nerves seems to me far more sensible, for it will encourage customers to linger, fondly perhaps, over items that attract them and to decide more carefully what they will buy. Often people who linger longer buy more. Music, in other words, that is universally pleasing instead of tearing at the nerves with jagged rhythms and anguishing harmonies is more likely to result in satisfied customers who will leave the shop smiling. So I thought this was an interesting excerpt here, taking into consideration people's energy. We're in a new age of energy. I think I've all talked about that. Of course, we have in these lessons, but if you haven't been with us, I suspect you have heard of Dwapara Yuga, the age of energy that Sri Yukteswar talked about. And Swami bringing this, though, into a practical way that we can engage people's energy in an uplifting manner. Isn't it true that when you hear, I know this was true for me, when I first heard Swami Kriyananda's voice, it was so soothing to my soul. There is something about his vibration, his energy, right, that was coming through the conduit, I should say the instrument of his voice. In India, this is interesting, the voice is thought of as the most beautiful instrument. Now, why would that be? The voice isn't necessarily the most attractive instrument. For some people, it might be the violin, the cello, the piano, harp, whatever. But what they mean by that, the voice being the most beautiful instrument, is that the voice can most acutely express states of consciousness. And this is why, great rishis, great seers in ancient times or timeless times, uh, higher ages, they would go into deep, right? A yogi or rishi would go into deep communion with God, and an inspiration of a mantra would would sort of express itself through that rishi, through that yogi. There's a fascinating tale that Morley, one of our friends and community members, he leads the Raja Yoga class up at Ananda, Seattle. Morley tells the story of the Gayatri mantra and how that mantra came into being. But not to go down that rabbit hole, which is a fascinating story, but my point being is the voice, if a person's voice can have that kind of effect, right? What to say about music and what to say about the vibrations in general, right? So, East West Bookstore in Palo Alto, for example, that's owned by Ananda Palo Alto. They've owned and ran that bookstore for 30 plus years now. And it's one of the most successful metaphysical bookstores in the country. And the way that they set up, and there's East West in Seattle, who are, I know, our friends up, Padma and Hriman, Nayaswami Padma and Hriman, and friends run that bookstore. And the way I was in East West Seattle recently, a couple months ago, and just walking in, you immediately felt an inviting vibration, uplifting music, some incense, right? The way the books are placed throughout the store. It's more inviting you into an uplifting experience. Uh, and I do relate to what Swami says here that oftentimes you go into now a cafe or other kinds of stores and the music is so blaring that it's jarring to your nervous system. And for me, it does leave me wanting to just, leave the store. So Swami's saying for material success, if we're trying to set up a space, it's just like our own meditation space at home. I'm sure you all have your sacred space at home. You want to make it attractive. You want to make it uplifting. You want to make it remind you. I have my space in the background here, this beautiful. I love that picture. That's the last smile of Yogananda. And I love that picture. It's entrancing when I look at that photograph. And then I have another one, which you maybe can't see. There's Ananda Moy Ma there, and she reminds me of the Divine Mother. So just as we set up a sacred space at home, we can create a space, a workspace that's inviting, uplifting for our colleagues, our customers, whoever it is. So a practical point that Swami's giving here. And then there was
Can I
another
just,
one here. Yeah,
oh,
please,
oh,
Jennifer.
so I just want to say I took this course probably almost 20 years ago, and I love this. Is the book the entire course that it was
Yes,
18
Jennifer.
or so years ago? Oh,
Yeah,
I've got
it's
to get my
20.
hands on that. Okay,
Yeah, crystalclarity.com.
I
Not
will.
only,
I will.
and here's the other good news. I think Marie and Stephanie know, Prashanti may not. The audiobook is available, read by Swami
Oh,
Kriyananda.
oh,
It's on
okay,
It's
okay.
on crystalclarity.com. It's also on Audible.
Mm,
Actually, I think it's temporarily off of Audible, but it'll be back on because we're doing some
okay,
things with Audible. But anyway, on crystalclarity.com, you can get the
lovely.
book, the ebook, and the audiobook. And
Because
it's
I don't
really powerful. Yeah.
because I don't work I don't own a shop or anything. I work in corporate world, and my service is supposed to be my brain power, whatever, to solving problems for getting this one small cog in this big project of getting satellites launched. And I was just feeling super agitated and irritated today. There's a lot of stuff going on, but and just hearing you read that part, it's not music per se, but it is. My office is a mess. My office is just
Hmm.
a mess,
Yeah,
and it feels I wasn't able to put my finger on it, but yeah, having that messy office, and I've got my young adult children are back at home living with me, and things
mm.
are messy because 20-year-olds think that they should just, yeah, anyway. um but one of the things in the last few years that I have learned to do for myself, and I'm feeling inspired tomorrow morning, I am going to get myself some flowers and put it on my desk at work.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Because just bringing a little bit of nature and a little bit of beauty and a little bit of sweetness, and yeah, I'm feeling inspired to just a little bit of energetic shift to my
that's
workplace.
great, Jennifer. That's great. Yeah, that's exactly what Swami's talking about here. And of course, this applies to all of us, no matter where we work or what the situation is. So that's great. I'm glad to hear it's inspiring you in that direction. This is uh, another topic that Swami's talking on here. This is on page 208. When an idea is expressed not only simply and clearly, but attractively, readers will give it more attention. I found that keeping my feet on the ground as a writer means visualizing the reader as someone seated across the desk from me. The more real I can make the image in my mind, even to the point of imagining us actually conversing together, the more interesting my writing can become. One problem with writing is that because writers express only what is in their heads, they may feel out of touch with their readers' actual realities and labor their points endlessly. This is what senile people or those who've grown deaf often do, who aren't really trying to communicate, but are only rolling out tedious monologues like rugs. I usually go over a piece of writing many times, sometimes 30 or even 50 times, before I am satisfied not only that I have said what I wanted, but also communicated my ideas. Much of that labor is simply a matter of getting the rhythms right, for by its rhythms, a sentence can either enliven or deaden a reader's interest. There was a time when I used to read out loud what I had written. Nowadays, I no longer feel that need, but the sounds and word sequences remain very important to me, even though I read them silently. I think that's beautiful. I have taken up Swami's advice of when I write that I do read, it's something important, an important email, or I was actually working on something with Dharma Devi before our book study here, and we were writing a letter and we were reading it to one another out loud to feel what we were expressing. Was it clear? Was it, as Swami saying, uplifting and attractive? Um, Someone said to Swami Kriyananda, "Well, you write so easily." He said, "No, it might read easily, but it takes hard work to write." And I think this is an important point, especially with the advent of AI, quote unquote, artificial intelligence, right? Because now you can just ask your AI, write me an essay on such and such and this and that, and boom, it'll write you an essay, right? In a minute and 10 seconds or whatever. And what is the trade off with that kind of outsourcing of our own thinking? Um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't. Go
can
ahead,
I,
Jennifer.
yeah, I feel like I need to jump in. That's so funny. I was just thinking about AI and writing, and I think there've been like some studies and stuff too that you can tell AI's got certain patterns to how it does the writing. too. And yeah, losing some of that, it becomes kind of cookie cutter. And in uh, using AI as like a friend, but not to do it for you. I
Yeah.
sometimes will
Yeah.
read my stuff to an AI chat and let it tell me like what messages it got from it. And then I'll tweak my own writing based on what it tells me that it heard, as opposed to letting it write it for me. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
when it writes something, even if it's just an email or just like I was having a hard time at work. I got very angry at a coworker and I needed to sort out sort of my feelings. And it gave me this script. And I'm like, everything in the script was right, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So using it as like a friend to bounce ideas off, like a stand-in for a friend to bounce
Yeah.
ideas off of, but making it my own voice. And I love what Swamiji says about just so many times to make it sound effortless takes so much effort. Isn't that just
Yeah.
true in so many areas of life?
Very true. Yeah, I mean, it's a tool, of course, and but it's learning to use it in a way that's helping us and
Authentic.
not, yeah, authentic, and we're not asking it to do the work for us. Um, because it's like you've heard that expression maybe with exercise, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And if we're
Mm-hmm.
not exercising our brain, if we're not, using our intelligence to think, it's just, yeah, that's why we were very lucky to have Swami Kriyananda as an example of how to express himself. Um, this is moving on to 209. Another important thing to remember is that whatever you do is always and uniquely itself. Don't try to make it a carbon copy of anything else, not even of something you yourself have done. To keep your feet on the ground means, among other things, to live in the present. Even when making plans for the future, project your consciousness into that future time as though it were right now. Keep your feet on the ground, then, means much more than placing your feet on the earth itself. Bear in mind, in fact, that even the earth is insubstantial, composed of whirling atoms, and relatively speaking, of as much space as exists between the stars and outer space. Above all, remember that the very ground is energy. The more you become aware of these seemingly insubstantial realities, the more you will feel mentally free to contemplate further possibilities for your continued success. Remember, in the age of countless inventions, the most profitable ideas often come from contemplating hidden possibilities in what heretofore have seemed mundane realities. There's a lot here. Um, but I love that first part where he said, even making plans for the future, project your consciousness into that future time as though it were right now. And the yogis, of course, remember this is maybe a couple lessons ago, we had that beautiful affirmation we did. It was from I think, lesson 9, immediate versus long range goals. Let me make sure. Lesson 8, immediate versus long range goals. And the affirmation, um, to me, it's one of the most beautiful in all of these lessons. I am in control of my life. Time cannot control me, for I am timeless forever, right here and right now. Isn't it beautiful? Remember, it's this lesson about, we thought immediate versus long range goals. Oh, Swami will talk about setting your goal. It actually talks about being timeless in that lesson. So it's very powerful. And he's touching on it here again. even when making plans for the future, project your consciousness into that future time as though it were right now. So if that's great, that is beautiful. If there is no time, or right, if time is a delusion, I am in control of my life. Time cannot control me, for I am timeless forever, right here and right now. We can project ourselves into that future as if it were right now, because in reality, there isn't. You know, the yogis talk about time being just like a movie reel, right? That you can roll it, they can roll it forward and backwards. And that's how there were these ancient astrologers like Brigu who had astrological readings for people that had not yet lived, right? Like Swami Kriyananda had his Brigu reading. Dharma Devi, my wife, had a similar reading. I can attest to it as well. It was fascinating, to feel. Now,
Can I ask? Oh, I'm
yes, go
sorry.
ahead, Jennifer.
I
No,
don't mean to help me. I've heard help me make that more concrete. Like be like the step down transformer from Swamiji
so
to the
yeah,
like an example. Just
think
not to
about
get too much of my
I'm with you. It's a difficult thing to let's step it down. So think
like I'm
about
thinking about retiring. So I'm thinking about taking early retirement soon. So I'm feeling this is a very, very important lesson for me to have tuned in, to and to be tuning into. Like, so I'm gonna project my consciousness into the future of my next career,
yeah,
my next
yeah,
phase of life.
yeah. I mean, I guess like what he's saying is if you think of a still, like think of a lake that's perfectly calm and still. And if you, when you throw a pebble or a rock out, you know how it makes the ripples that go out. Well, time is like that, like our true self, Jennifer, our soul, higher self is like the still lake. And the rock is when karma comes into play and we have ripples go out and we go through time and space, but it's more like time is kind of revolving around our calm and still center. So what he's saying is if we can get still and calm enough within, then we can project ourselves, we can pierce through all those waves of duality and get to the eternal now. Because in our soul nature, we are perfect, we're ever present. It's kind of like how Yogananda said in Samadhi, that poem, uh, present, past, future, no more for me, but ever present, all flowing, I, everywhere. So that's the key. Like, in order for us to project, we have to go beyond the dualities of past, present, and future and get into eternal present. Of course, that's a big step. So how do we do that? We just
Break it down.
take one step at a time. Just that's
Mm-hmm.
where taking control of our breath, right? The meditation preliminary exercises, the tense, the
Mm-hmm.
double breath, and the
Mm-hmm.
even count breathing. I'd
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to bring back some even count breathing into your meditation. Inhale 5, hold
Mm-hmm.
5, exhale 5, go up to 7, go up to 10, go up to as long as comfortable. Don't strain, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
nice, deep, slow, rhythmic breaths. And then after you do several rounds, 6 to 12 rounds of even count breathing, then just concentrate at the point between the eyebrows and feel yourself as that still point, right? Be still and know I am God. And then feel from there that you're doing what he's saying. Project your consciousness into the future as though it were right now. And then you can send out blessings as well, for that time when you do retire to feel like it's is the appropriate so that it's in the appropriate time for you, for your highest self, for everyone involved.
Okay, yeah, we'll come back to this. I'm sure this will be this. I'm
Yeah,
thank you for that. Feel that that just jumped out at me. I will be
yeah,
journaling and meditating on that.
yeah. Thank you for
Jennifer,
asking. It makes go ahead, Stephanie.
um, I just remembered because of your question that when I was ready to retire, I got the advice, spend one more year there. And what that did for me, it really grounded me because I trusted the giver of the advice. And so I knew that it was going to give me what I really wanted, which I couldn't yet define. And so during that year, being present in every moment with every niggling situation developed in me
Mm,
such a presence that it was the next natural step when the end of that year came. And I had so much self-esteem grow in the process.
Did it very with intentionally? Sounds like we're really able to, yeah, wring everything out of, learn everything you're supposed to learn and do it with dignity and
And
intention.
I did it as if I already were those things that were difficult
Mm,
for me.
mm.
mm,
I just stepped out and I was like not in my own self and looking at, really, is that me doing that?
mhm.
I was watching that
Wow,
happen. Yeah.
thank
That's
you.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. It's actually it's interesting you brought that up because that was one of the next points I was going to share is what you were just saying. This is Swami on 210. Keeping your feet on the ground means also, of course, not being absent-minded. Whatever you are doing, be focused on it one pointedly. And it sounds like that's what your last year of work was like, Stephanie, just being focused on one experience at a time, one person at a time, one problem at a time.
Yeah, right there. And I wasn't even worrying about the usual things you would want to know about what is the retirement going to look like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the key for us in everything is what you're expressing, nishkam karma, right? Action. We've heard that in the Gita, Krishna saying action without desire for the fruits of action. Now, from a worldly point of view, this is like this doesn't make any sense. People think, well, of course you do everything because what's in it for me? Otherwise, why do it? No, from this spiritual perspective, it's being present, like you were saying, Stephanie, and giving of oneself in non-attachment. You actually, through non-attachment, you can be more present, right? You can give more of yourself because you're not stretched over space and time, Jennifer,
Mhm,
right? When you have desires, if you have a desire, you have consequent fear, right? Because you have the
mhm.
fear of
Not
losing,
getting it.
of not getting it, or if you have it, of losing it, or whatever. And what does Swami say? We were, Prashanti, we were part of the earlier satsang today. Swami said that all suffering comes from wishing things were other than they were,
Mhm.
right? It's like a negative desire, aversion. And so the more that we can, it's really, it sounds like action without desire for the fruits of action is really a triste to love, right? Because if you're acting as the masters do, as the great saints do, as any God realized being does, they're acting in a state of perfect divine attunement, right? They're acting as a channel, an ever increasing, ever pure channel of divine love. And that love will express itself differently. It'll be appropriate for the, like Stephanie was saying, for the given situation, for that given person, for whatever is needed in your work. There will be a creative, fresh application, expression of the truth. And so
Mm.
that's what inspired us, right? By Swami Kriyananda's example. That's what inspires us about Yogananda, all the great saints. Is you can feel that it's like the lightning flash of truth when they express themselves. Marie, were you wanting to share? I'm sorry, I thought I saw you.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think so. I'm glad that you continued because it kind of led me into it. But see if I can go back and order my thoughts here. I think it really gets down to what this lesson is all about, and that's being grounded enough to be still. You know, to use our Kriya and our meditations and everything that we have to just stop all the conversations that are going on in our head and moving into a place of being still and just knowing. I think in everything that we do with life, there's always out there that's always beckoning us to create thoughts and movement and energy that not necessarily needs to be out there happening. And so I think that we just need to come back and be still and know. Quit trying to control everything and trust that we have everything that we need pertaining to our lives. And if we're still enough, it will just simply unfold like a lotus, I suppose, is an example. But I do think that if we become grounded, that we will have an easier perception of what is. It's like what we were talking about earlier about it being out there. We're here, but we're seeing it in the future, and we're in the present and the future at the same time. But being grounded enough to just trust and believe that that we'll walk into. You know, I want to bring another real quick point in the beginning. You were talking about music, and all these stories from the scriptures, the Bible started coming out. How music was used to, they would put the people with the musical instruments in front of the battle to set the precedence.
That's right. Yeah.
Battles and you know and you know, we're all encouraged to enter the courts with praise and thanksgiving and singing and tambourines. So the music, I think, is really important in helping us get grounded as well as. So I would even say to I've forgotten her name, but she's just play some nice music and listen to that. But anyway, that's enough of me.
No, thank you.
I love
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, that's great, Marie. And you know, a couple things that you remind me of. One, the music, absolutely, right? Helps us set the tone, right? That opens our hearts, that helps us direct our energy in a positive way. And what you said about be still and know I am God. Of course, we know that Bible passage, but let's take it on a practical level. Keep your feet on the ground, like the lesson. Be practical in your idealism. Well, what does that mean? Try in your meditation tonight, right? After you finish your techniques, if you're a Kriyaban, you practice Kriya Yoga. If you know the Hong Sa technique, which I think we all either practice Hong Sa and or Kriya here. But remember, it's after our meditation actually begins after the techniques, right? So when we let go of all techniques and we hold the body still and our consciousness uplifted at the point between the eyebrows, try to challenge yourself just to be still for 1 minute after your techniques, and then see if you can extend it to start with 10 seconds and then go, 30 seconds, and just literally like, you're a rock. And the more that you can get comfortable with that stillness, there's an affirmation Swami Kriyananda has in the Ananda yoga postures. It's one of my favorites. It's Vajrasana. Vajrasana is the firm pose, right? You're sitting on your shins. Anyway, I'm not going to demonstrate Vajrasana right now, but the affirmation is, in stillness, I touch my inner strength,
Mm.
right? That's where our strength radiates from, is stillness. So thank you for reminding us of that, Marie. Okay, I am going to share one other section here, and then I do have uh, Swami leading us in the meditation for this lesson. So Jennifer, I'll play that for us all. We'll close with that. Every lesson has principles, application, meditation, and an affirmation. And Swami reads all 4 of those sections in the audiobook. So it's beautiful. So this, okay, this is bottom of 210. People generally these days are becoming more and more aware of energy. A flow of electricity generates a magnetic field. Many people are learning also that, as Yogananda taught, willpower generates a flow of energy in the body, and solution consciousness can generate the necessary energy to attract success. Solution consciousness can attract ideas, inspirations, and solutions. Problem consciousness, on the other hand, actually attracts the problems one dreads. I have been trying through these lessons to help you stimulate your subconscious towards success consciousness, and, more even than that, toward being solution-oriented. The very rhythms of these sentences are intended to help you toward success. How, you ask? By keeping that thought of success vibrant and alive in mind as I write. Isn't that beautiful? So Swami's, and that's why it's helpful to read and listen and share these writings, because we are attuning, like Yogananda said, you are connected not to a printing press, right? Not a book, but to a divine line of grooves, to a ray of the divine light, right? We talk about that this is a particular ray, and there is a flow of divine energy and grace that's flooding the planet now, and it's increasing because we're in an increasing age, a Dwapara Yuga energy age ascending. And so this is good news. When we look at the world, it doesn't seem like good news, but we have to remember that in the evolution of our planet, just where we are in the stage of the Yuga cycle, we're like, this planet as a whole, we're in the teenage years, right? This is like when you're 13 and you take your parents' car out for a joyride and you don't have your license. I mean, we can totally see that in our world. It's chaotic, unhinged, not grounded, right? Not talk about keeping your feet on the ground. It's not. It doesn't. The teenage years don't have their feet on the ground. But that doesn't mean we, meaning you and I as yogis, as spiritual aspirants, we don't have to live in that way. We can live in a sphere, just like Swami talked about projecting our consciousness forward. We can project our consciousness into living in Satya Yuga, right? The age of truth, of perfect harmony with the divine. And the more we determine to do that, and we put out the energy, right? And that's where that's why we do all these things, right? That's why we read, that's why we have satsangs, that's why we meditate, that's why we have community, because it's just like Swami said in his writing, it's keeping that thought of success vibrant and alive in our minds. That's really, it's the key. It's keeping, you see what, that's why everything was so fascinating, right? With Swami, he made it interesting. He made it alive. I should say makes it, because he is alive. And that state of consciousness is alive within us. We just have to unearth it. And I find it a very encouraging thought. We were talking about this in the earlier satsang. It was on truthfulness, but I find it very encouraging on the spiritual path. Patanjali's thought and how he frames the yamas and the niyamas, right? That you don't have to try to be truthful, or you don't have to try to be loving. You are love. You are divine truth. And you really just need to avoid the impurities, that we need to cleanse our hearts, right? As Sri Yukteswar said, of the meannesses of the heart. And when we cleanse them through daily meditation, through service, through our inner self-offering, we find that we are that. To me, that's one of the most inspiring thoughts. It's like all that effort. It's what you were hinting at, Jennifer, before. Swami says this in the essence of the Bhagavad Gita: yogi must ever keep in mind all efforts end in ease. Right? That's the be still that Marie was reminding us of. So tonight, when you meditate, just to feel that you're just relaxing upward, more and more, higher inner relaxation, and that you're coming home to your divine beloved. And I don't know, I just wanted to share some of those thoughts because it's been coming up for me again. So any final thoughts before we meditate with Swami here? Okay, I'm going to get this lined up. So I invite you, get yourself comfortable, and if you can, if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, and I'm going to get this, share this audio with us. And again, this is Swami Kriyananda, the meditation for keep your feet on the ground. And this is only like a minute or two, it's not long. And please just give me a thumbs up once I get it going here that you can hear this.
Meditation. Don't depend wholly in such matters, however, on professional advice. I've been surprised at how many supposed experts in their fields are mediocre in the work they do. You'd do well to make sure that you are satisfied also personally. After all, everything in your work environment should be compatible with what you want to accomplish. Otherwise, even a very good interior decorator or sound expert might fail to tune in to what is appropriate for you. I used, before giving lectures, to sit near the lecture hall and meditate on what each particular group of people wanted and needed to hear. Because what I would say had also to be something that inspired me, I would offer both these thoughts up to God and to my own superconscious, and try to feel what to say. This usually was all I did to prepare for a lecture. Thus, I learned to be responsive to people's actual needs, rather than giving them thoughts I had plotted out in advance. Though I've given many thousands of lectures in my life, No two of them have ever been quite the same. In the same way, sit daily for meditation and try to attune yourself to what you must do, to what you want to give, and to what you think other people want, need, and can receive from you. Realize that these factors will never be exactly the same. Try always in your mind to be fresh and expectant. It is good, if your budget allows it, to adapt outward conditions also to your changing needs. You may complain, but that isn't meditation. Well, why not? Everything can be spiritualized if it is produced in the right spirit. The greatest thing you can do through your work is help people to tune in to their own highest reality, the divine self.
And let's close by affirming, let everything I do, Lord, reflect my attunement with Thee. Let everything I do, Lord, reflect my attunement with Thee. Let everything I do, Lord, reflect my attunement with Thee. Let everything I do, Lord, reflect my attunement with Thee. Silently, at the spiritual eye now, let everything I do, Lord, reflect my attunement with Thee. Om. Peace. Amen. Well, thank you, friends, for another inspiring satsang, book study.